Welcome into the Speeding in the Pits podcast. We have got a banger of an episode here, Klon. You've got some very passionate takes I hear coming up. We're going to dive deep into all that. And actually, does it revolve around the next gen car? I don't think it does this time.
No,
Okay.
I
We're
was
moving up
told
in
by
the
my
world.
wife to stop bashing the car, so I'll keep my mouth shut this week.
Perfect.
It was actually a good race. I won't complain.
I was really happy with the race, but we'll break it down. We'll talk about all that stuff. But before we get to that, we're going to have an interview. We're bringing Justin Mondeik back on the pod. He was our first interview. Great interview for us there right before he just finished at Bristol, then headed to Kansas. But now he's going back to, actually, I don't want to say, we'll leave that to Justin. We'll let Justin tease that in. We're going to talk about the Championship 4. We had quite a weekend. It all got shook up. It's going to be a good show. I'm pumped. But before we get too far into it, let's go ahead and bring on Justin now. All right, Justin, how are we doing, buddy?
Good. Glad to be on the show again. It's pretty cool to be on the show the first time for your guys' first ever show, and appreciate you having us back on.
Absolutely. Well, we love having you on, man. You're one of the boys.
One of the boys.
Let's go.
I appreciate that. So it's exciting to be on the show and exciting to share some more news that we have and just kind of recap our year a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, I'll just give you the floor. You want to give the good news of what's coming this weekend?
Yeah, so we posted out on social on Saturday, so the news is probably already out there, but at least for your viewers, we're going back to Homestead Miami Speedway this Friday and Saturday with Young's Motorsports in the 46. So I just really appreciate what they've done for me, but just kind of go and get some more experience at a mile and a half. Kansas went okay for us. We were able to get our clearance and do everything we set out to do. But Tyler came to us with another opportunity that we couldn't really pass up, and just to get a little more experience with me behind the wheel at a mile and a half.
Absolutely. And the late model season is coming to a close here in the central Wisconsin area. Are you going to be continuing racing in the southern parts of the country? How has the season up here looked as a whole wrap up? Just kind of give us a rundown of that.
Yeah, we had a really good 2024 season, honestly, for super late. 2023, we struggled a little bit. We were just a little bit off. We were still able to win a few times, but 24, we were able to pick it back up more to our standards. Raced a little less this year. Just my dad was diagnosed with cancer in January, so we've been kind of dealing with that all year, and treatments have been going well, but it's definitely a roller coaster up and down. So we just decided as a family and a team that we're going to run a few less races this year, but we ended up running, I think, 22 shows this year, and we were able to capture 8 wins. So that was really cool. We were able to capture 2 Midwest Tour wins. We were able to capture a Midwest Tour win other than at State Park Speedway. We captured one at Elko Speedway in September. So we ended up 3rd in the Midwest Tour points. I think we could have had a shot at the title. We really ran well. We just had a couple too many DNFs and mechanical failures from there. But and then at State Park Speedway, we ended up 2nd in points. And like I said before, 8 total wins across the year. Also, I think we were 2nd points in the Tundra Series as well. So really good year. Unfortunately, we didn't get any championships, but at any time you can be top 2 or 3 in points in anything you run, I think that's a good year.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't even know about your dad. I want to say I'm sorry. First off,
Absolutely.
that you guys have had to deal with that, and for you to be able to go out and race like you have this year and show everybody. I mean, I had no clue, and I was with you a bunch this season. So very resilient, very tough of you to do that. But talking about late models real quick with your career and everything like that, we had a late model released today that was pretty awesome looking. And in our previous interview, you mentioned you're a Dale Earnhardt Jr. fan. And first I got to ask, have you seen the new Budweiser Dale Jr. late model, and how many die casts are you going to buy?
At least 2. No, I mean, you really can't afford not to see it if you're a racing fan. That's kind of all you see on all the networks today, even on TV and social media, you name it, it's out there everywhere. But it definitely was sharp back in the day, and it's kind of cool that he's doing some of the throwback stuff and coming back. I think they're racing that car at Florence. So it's just cool to see, I guess, companies that support him from way back kind of come back and support him for a race. And he's definitely, anytime a driver does that, like, they're doing a tribute, but like they're not doing it for free. Like, there's definitely backside behind it, and Budweiser, I'm sure, is pumping money into it. But it's just cool to give that throwback. I mean, he's got a lot of iconic wins, as you know. winning at Daytona with it, after his dad passed away, all that. So it's like I grew up Earnhardt fan, and that was definitely a legendary car, was the red number 8. So it's pretty cool to see that back out on the track here coming up in a few weeks.
Absolutely. Well, Klon, I'm sorry I've hogged the interview here to start off. You go ahead, buddy. I'm sure you got some questions too.
Absolutely. You're good, man. I just taking it all in. It's cool to hear about Junior coming back too. It was cool to see all that. But Justin, I want to shift it back to Kansas here about a month ago now. Feels time flies, I guess, when you're having fun. But you talked about coming into that weekend, how that was probably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, probably the fastest you're ever going to go in a racing vehicle of any kind to this point. But walk us through how that transition was to 1.5 miles to, the truck and the speeds you were reaching, and what that, what was it different? Did it compare to what you've done previously, or just what was that experience like?
Yeah, when we went into Bristol the week before, our break kind of told me, it's the fastest track you'll ever go to. It'll be the fastest you'll ever feel, just the G-forces, everything. And I went out there, and like it was fast at Bristol, but it wasn't like, I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't like overwhelming like people made it seem, right? So it's like I felt like I was prepared for it. But of course, as a race car driver, you always have the hardest racetrack and best driving car ever, right? That's just how drivers are. But so Bristol, that was cool to get through that. And then going into Kansas, definitely the first couple of laps, it felt fast. You could definitely feel the speed. Just because where we were, and as the race went up, you kind of move up next to the wall and get closer, so then you can really feel the speed, right? Because you have something to judge that speed off of. But it's just a hard thing to get your mind at Kansas when you're running wide open all the way around. So that's a hard thing for your mind to get used to, that you come into the corner and you don't lift. Like pretty much in qualifying and probably for the first 20-30 laps of a run, you don't lift, right? So it's a hard thing for your mind to get used to come in the corner and not lift. So it's like you really have to like take everything you've learned and kind of throw it out the window and just hold the pedal down, and hopefully you got enough grip. In practice, we struggled a little bit. It was a little bit tight end, tight center, and it would start to just get free off. And once the trucks get free, it's not like a late model. Once they get free and sideways, they just kind of snap and they go, and there's not a whole lot you can do. So felt like we were right on the edge a couple times, but we're able to make it better in practice, and just had a few issues in the race that we dealt with. But overall, we stayed clean and finished better than where we qualified. And like I said, stayed clean and got our clearance and accomplished what we wanted to do.
Yeah, and maybe walk us through in a little bit more detail too. I know it was a while ago, but I remember listening to your radio that night. Maybe there was a throttle sticking at one point, and you were dealing with that. And obviously, there's things that come up throughout a race, like you said. But was that your goal, just to get clearance? And did you meet your expectations really? And again, just walk us through what that night was like for you and from your perspective.
Yeah, so the big thing is just the pit road aspect and pit stops. That's a lot to get used to. We don't have that, right? So Bristol went really well for us, but every time we pitted, it was pretty much a clean pit road because we were a lap down, so you're pitting off sequence. But at Kansas, you do your practice run at the beginning of the race, and that's pretty much you're checking your RPM and your speed, and then your crew chief and spotter can check that speed in each zone to see how you're doing. So I was so focused in the practice run of the RPM, I never looked where my box was, right? I was just focused on the RPM, and all of a sudden I got like halfway down pit road, and I'm like, I didn't look for my box. Stupid, right? Like you look back now, it's like, oh, that's stupid. But it's like when you're in the moment and you're doing it, you're trying to focus, like not to go over. It's the easy thing to look past. So anyways, we come down for our first stop. And then at Bristol, we're the O2, right? So the O2 sign was super bright. I could stand out. I could see it. Well, then we come down and I'm like looking for the 46, right? And they're like 10-9 and they're counting. And then all of a sudden, like the crew chief came on. So I lost my spotter communication at that point. So I'm like looking for my box. And by the time I noticed it, I'm like, it's directly to my left. So we missed it. So I just kept going straight and I had to come back down. So you didn't really lose anything. We didn't really lose any laps, but the sign was real dark. It's hard to tell. So I know we've addressed that for Homestead going in. So we dealt with that. And then about halfway through that run in the first stage, I started to lose fuel pressure a little bit. And like I said, for the first 30 laps, you're wide open. So anytime you lift or it sputters, like you're killing lap time. So the first stage, we were able to stay on the lead lap, which was big. So we came down, got tires. And then right at the end of the second stage with like 5 to go, it started to miss like really bad. Like we were losing fuel pressure again. Well, then we ended up getting lapped with like 3 to go. So then we were off sequence, right? So then the beginning of the third stage, everybody came in and pitted. and then we stayed out for the wave round. Well, then everybody gets tires and we don't. Well, that just compounds the problem, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of it, I think we had close to 90 laps on our tires, while everybody else had 40, right? So you're just getting killed at the end. But then the last 80 laps, there was in the interior shroud next to my leg. They must not have had it far enough away from the pedal. I guess I should have noticed it as well, but it is what it is. But they must not have had it up far enough apart from the pedal, because then as the race went, it started to hang up on the throttle. So late in the runs, when you're starting to want to lift, right, you come into the corner and start to lift, it should lift, and it's not, right, because the throttle is still hanging wide open. So then you physically got to pull it back with your foot. Well, that just screws up all your timing and everything. So the last 80 laps of the race with fuel pressure and old tires and throttle, it wasn't a fun last 80 laps, but we stayed out of trouble. We made the most of it. I feel like we got a lot of those issues addressed here going in the Homestead. It's going to hopefully go and redeem ourselves a little bit. It wasn't a bad race overall. I mean, we passed quite a few trucks. You know, we finished better than what we qualified and did a lot, but it's like looking at pace, we probably could have been 17th or 18th, right? Which with what we're doing in our experience, that would have been a pretty good run, but we ended up 26th, you know, just with being 2 laps down and everything we dealt with. But looking forward to Homestead. I appreciate what Young's has done with me and Tyler, the owner, giving me this opportunity and just get some more experience on a mile and a half, because I want to, maybe we can do more pit stops and get a green flag pit stop and just try to learn as much as we can going into 25 to see if we can put something together.
Absolutely. Definitely. And you got to get comfortable with the car at Bristol. And then whenever we go to Kansas, now we get to see what it's like on the mile and a half track. Now we're going to another mid, track. How much are you able to take away from Kansas that applies as well at Homestead? Because the track design obviously is a little different, but kind of what things are you able to take away from the drive at Kansas to bring here to Homestead?
I think just the aspect of feeling what the draft feels like, kind of looking for that air. You kind of got to know where you can't get on someone's door because you either get free or they get free. Just trying to get more comfortable running up near the wall, right? That's something that's different. We don't really have a lot of tracks around here where you run all the way up.
Terrifying.
It's not terrifying. It's just like there's no room for error. There's no room for error, right? So it's like you screw up, you're into the wall, it can wreck your day. So it's like the Cup guys like Reddick and Larson, they're some of the best. I mean, they're inches away, right? But the Cup cars got a lot more stability than what the trucks do, right? But so I think just trying to get comfortable with that aspect. We went up top a little bit at Kansas with the throttle issue. It just I wasn't comfortable enough to go up there with all the issues that we had, so I didn't get a lot of laps, unfortunately. So hopefully we get a little more closer balance in the truck this time, where we can go up and venture, because we're going to have to live up there. Looking at past SMT data and past races, that's definitely, they kind of start out low, but then after about halfway through the stage, then they start to move up, and that's where the grip is, speed. Trucks don't have a ton of horsepower, and they're heavy, so they're all momentum based. So if they can keep the momentum up and keep your RPM up top, that's why they ended up making better lap time.
Well, and do you want to talk about this opportunity from Young's? Like, is this something where you're mentioning 2025 next year? Is this something where you could get a full-time ride with them next year? Or is this something where maybe another team notices that you've had some success at some of these tracks and they want to bring you on for another year? What does that all look like for the future and heading into 25 and 26?
Yeah, we've been really received positively, honestly. Other teams have reached out to us, but it comes down to how much partnership you can bring, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they still want racers. They still want people that do well, and you're going to get a better opportunity than the next guy that doesn't have the experience, right? So that's where we did what we did with Young's to get our clearance, build the relationships. I don't know if we would do a full year with Young's, or just trying to sort all that out, or we do a part-time basis, or maybe a part-time elsewhere. We're not totally sure yet. So just at this point, we're there to have fun and learn as much as we possibly can going into the off season here. And then hopefully November and December, hopefully we can piece something together for next year. So we'll just see where it goes. I'm content if this is the last truck race I run. I've always wanted to do it, right? So I'm content if it doesn't go any further. But now that you're kind of in the neck of the woods and doing it at that level, you'd like to continue it as much as you can. So, and then I'll still do the super late as much as we can on the backside. So kind of hard to plan right now until we kind of know what one plan is, from the other. It's hard.
Sure. And when you look at the race, and the other drivers out there, there's a lot of guys from this area as well, like Ty Majeski especially. How much have those guys helped you out? Have you talked to them at all through this process, and just been like, "Hey, man, like I'm coming up to drive this truck. What should I know?"
Yeah, both Ty and Derek Krause have been really helpful. I've talked to Caden Honeycutt quite a bit as well, and just the expertise that they have from doing it so long, just kind of explaining how different it is than a super late, which has been helpful, kind of what to look for, what to stay away from. Obviously, Ty's trucks with ThorSport, I mean, they're some of the best trucks and guys around it, right? So you can't really compare apples to apples with the trucks on race day, but as far as lines and restarts and race procedures and kind of what to look for, they've been really helpful, and just giving me as much info that they can, honestly.
For sure. And Justin, just again, I know we're kind of chronologically getting out of order here, but talking last time you were on, we mentioned your NASCAR clearance and getting cleared to race, week in, week out. It felt like it was almost a trial by error almost at that point. But where are we at with that now? If you race Homestead, are you free to go anywhere in a truck, or is this still a week by week basis thing for you?
Yeah, so after Kansas, they cleared us for Talladega. And it was too late to put the deal together for Talladega. Young's they didn't take any trucks to Talladega. They ended up selling the 02, or they rented the 02 number to a different driver, but it wasn't a Young's Motorsports truck. He just rented the number. So Young's didn't even have a truck there. He just sold the 02 number. So we didn't put a deal together for Talladega, but they cleared us for everything for 25 or for 24 and then all of 25. So, nice. Homestead, there's really no benefit for us other than just more experience for me and keeping my name relevant in the sport. So it's cool to have that respect from NASCAR, honestly, just being all the playoff races and how much they've watched us. I've heard of other drivers kind of having problems getting through the clearance or not getting approved for this race or that race. So it's been, an honor for me to kind of go through the clearance. And my resume, I think, is good, right? But you still have to have points of reference, and they call a lot of series and track owners and you name it, other people in the industry. I'm sure they talk to other drivers as well. So it feels good to kind of get through the NASCAR clearance, right? So now if we're able to find a partner that wants to go to Daytona, in February, now at least we know we can do that, right? That's why we wanted to do this in 24.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess this is the last question I have for you, Justin, and we'll probably let you go. But as a tequila drinker, I've noticed your sponsor on your truck here the last couple of times out, this and correct me if I pronounce this wrong, but El Bandito Yankee Tequila.
Correct.
Where can I find this stuff? Is it a mystery, or where do we track that down?
I'll have to get you guys a few bottles or something.
Oh yes, go ahead.
There we go.
Let's go. Yeah. No, see, like I said, he's one of the boys. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm honestly I'm not a huge drinker. I'm really not. But the tequila that they have, it's super smooth. Like normally, if you have like other tequilas, it's like, it's like
punches you right in the head.
Yeah, people take shots at tequila, but this stuff is like really smooth. It's some of the purest tequila that you can get, honestly. So you can get it at a lot of grocery stores and stuff like that. I'll have to text you guys where to get it. But it's cool. It's been great having Eric with El Bandito Yankee Tequila and everything that they've done for us. They're one of our primary partners going in Homestead as well, and so you'll be seeing the general colors here at Homestead again. So
I'm gonna have to track me a bottle down by Friday. It sounds like.
Yeah, I also noticed as well, because I was wanting to get a bottle and have you sign it. I thought that would be a pretty cool thing to display. But I was looking on their website. They have a thing where you can go and put in your zip code, and it'll show you the liquor stores in your area that have it.
There you go, Connor.
I was looking on the. I don't know what I was doing, man. I was looking
already ahead of the game.
You need me to help you run a computer, or what? You're struggling with the NASCAR sites.
Every day.
Well, actually, all the guys at Young's, they shipped them some tequila and ended up signing a bunch of bottles for all those guys. So I don't know if they emptied the bottles and put them on the shelf, or they just left them full. But
you have to empty them. I mean, what good does it do at that point? You got to empty it.
I got to give them two. One they can drink and one they can keep on the shelf. Yeah.
Then make it 3.
Well, we had last week, we had our an interview last week with Levon Vandergeest, and we were talking with him, and I had asked him about you, if you guys had raced together and stuff, and he had told me that you guys had raced together in the past and everything. And I asked him this question, and now I got to ask you real quick. And this is our last question for you. We'll let you go. And if it was you two, front row, green, white, checkered, who comes out on top?
What was his answer? I didn't get a chance to watch.
What do you think? What do you think his answer was? What do you think he said?
He's a race car driver, man.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have picked himself, I would imagine. But I feel like he's definitely come a long ways, but I feel like there's enough tricks of the trade where I feel like I could get it done just with the experience and knowing what to expect on restarts. And there's a lot of games that goes on restarts on the front row. So you kind of more laps that you run up front that helps that. So I feel like we would do it, but like I said, any race car driver is going to say that. So guess we'll find out. Tune into 2025.
Yeah, there we go. This is great. Now we got to watch several of these late model races in the central Wisconsin area for this moment to happen. That would be great. I'm pumped. But anyways, Justin, we appreciate you for joining as usual. And keep us updated on anything in the future. We'd love to have you on again and talk about any upcoming races or this offseason, not if, but when you sign with a truck team for full-time next year. Let us know. We'll have you on. We'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, you bet. No, I appreciate you having me on. Anytime you guys want me on, just get a hold of me. We'll figure it out. I feel like I'm part of the founding group now, being on the first episode.
Exactly.
I would say he is. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
We should have Justin on as our on-track expert. You know, if there's anything you're confused about.
You're stuck now.
We're not the on-track experts, so
not at all.
That would be appreciated.
Not at all. We're just two guys who like racing. That's all. Justin's the expert here. He's an engineer as well, if anybody didn't know. So smart cat over there.
Helps. That has to help.
I try.
Hey, try. Well, thanks again, Justin. We appreciate you for coming on, buddy. Have a good rest of your night. And the most important part, what am I doing here? Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Right. Yeah, we have practice qualifying, I think, at 1 or 2 o'clock on Friday, and then the race is 11 a.m. Central on Saturday. So make sure you guys.
It's Saturday? Oh, geez. All right. Well, good to know.
We'll be tuning in. We will be tuning in and cheering on the 46. Anyway, but.
You know, Connor, if you'd follow Justin Mondeik Racing on Facebook, you'd see all that info.
I follow all of it. It's on all my stories every time you guys post. It's going to be again. But apparently,
if you watch the hype video, the time was on there. Come on.
Let's go. Get him, Justin.
The times over here, literally.
Drill him.
Times. Yeah. We'll do better.
Drill him.
I'll be better,
I love it.
Promise.
That's right.
Well, good luck this weekend, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
You bet. Talk to you guys later.
See you, man.
See you, dude.
Oh, buddy, he was grilling you.
I gotta get out more, man. It's bad. It's really bad.
I
deserved every second of that too.
That was great. That was great. I love it. Well, that was a perfect way to start off this show. We're already off. I mean, this is gonna be a banger. We're already off to a great note here. But let's just jump into last week. We talked about it a little bit there at the beginning. We had a pretty. Ultimately, I thought it was a really good race. I was thrilled with the result of what was on track. Joey Logano, of course, ends up coming up and winning it after a fuel. I feel like every time we have a fuel mileage race or a tire wear race or both, Joey Logano is right there in the mix. It's just. He's so good at these. They hung around right at the perfect time. And then with 10, 12 to go, they just said, go for it. And he just ran Suarez down and took the lead. So what was your reaction to the race this weekend?
I thought it was a good race too. Like I said, I wasn't coming on here to try and bash the next gen again. I think this is what the car is good at though, is these mile and a half. So we see that time and time again. So no surprise there. I do think again, it's nice again to see the race play out the way it did, and we'll get into the result maybe a little bit more later, but seeing a long fuel run like that play out and Bell hunting down the leaders with, at the inside of 30 to go or whatever that was, where it really started to heat up. I feel like 80% of the time here, the last few years of NASCAR, we see a caution fly with 15 to go and it totally ruins the entire thing. So refreshing to get to see one of those actually play out, refreshing to get to see strategy come into play. Sometimes we lose sight of that with stages too. So I thought it was awesome. I don't know. Overall, I'll watch that race every Sunday. I thought that's as good as it gets.
Of course. I'm so down for that every Sunday, but you mentioned it a little bit there. The Seabell rocket ship there at the end. I mean, that guy was flying through the field. Heavy disappointment for the 20 team though there at the end. They were so close. I mean, oh my God. How many more laps do you think it would have taken? 2 max?
Maybe 2. Yeah. I mean, 2
it might have even, if Joey makes a slight mistake, the very next lap, it might have happened.
I think there's a good chance he got him that night. If there was in theory, next lap. Yeah. Or for sure within 2, he gets them. I mean, he was trimming off 6/10 a lap there for a while.
Something like that. And that was toward the end once his tires, that was toward the end too, once his tires weren't completely fresh. But when his tires were completely fresh, he was taking off a second a lap. And it was like, oh boy. And I love, again, huge shout out, huge credit to the broadcast from NBC. They do such a great job. And them showing the track, the monitor, and showing where they were on the track as they went around. So cool. I love the stuff that they do. They do the NASCAR broadcast so well. And again,
the way it was
Lee
20
Diffie's
years
great.
ago. Yep.
Absolutely.
It's the way it's meant to be done. It's you can't say enough good things about it. It's a bummer Junior's not going to be there anymore, but we'll eventually see him next year again. But yeah, it really does make the racing better. Honestly, like you don't think of what a broadcast can really do for a race until you watch a Fox race at 1.5 miles and then go watch the same thing with NBC, and it keeps you glued. I mean,
it's night and day. It's a night and day difference. It really is.
I can't imagine like somebody new to the sport that's actually trying to turn it on for the first time or first year of watching. Like NBC makes it so much more fun to watch. Like
absolutely,
it does interest you and you learn something too. Like I think that should be the goal every time, and they nail it.
Yeah, well, imagine if there's a NASCAR fan who's starting like in the back half of the season. They're going to watch NBC all the way through. Then Fox is going to come around next year, and they're going to be like,
"What is this?
What's going on? What is going
Thank
on?"
God, you got a crash course. Yeah.
You got a crash. Oh man. But yeah, I mean, a great wreck overall, and wreck. Oh my gosh, that's what we're getting into next. Race. Speaking of wrecks.
Yeah. Speaking of wrecks. Yeah, that was certainly something.
It wasn't even like Chase was just a bunch of people threw the blame on Reddick and a bunch of people threw the blame on Truex. It was both of them. Reddick was playing way too aggressive. And let me start with this. Reddick was playing too aggressive, but I'm not mad about it. I understand like you got to get those positions up, ending the stage. You got to get up there and get your points. I get it. I'm so for it. I'm not faulting him for driving aggressively. But when you throw your car in there exiting on the turn, when both cars below you are clearly coming up, it's a recipe for disaster. You're begging for it at this point. And then when we look at Martin Truex Jr., he's coming way up the track. I mean, Chase is out of the gas. If you looked at the S&T data, Chase is out of the gas well before. He saw it like 3 seconds before it happened. But at that point, it's too late. You're already in the fire. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's a dumb move. And now Chase has to win to get in. I don't see him being able to make it off 53, make back 53 points.
You can't. No, unless it's just catastrophic meltdown for 6 other guys or something. Like
literally, like they would have to wreck each other. There would have to be a wreck.
Both races.
Yeah, both races, all the drivers would have to wreck each other on the first lap and finish dead last. But not even that. Like, they would have to finish in the order they are in the standings. So, like, Seabell, Larson, Byron, you would have to flip that. And they would have to finish in that order. So,
yeah,
it's not going to happen unless
you're more than Tyler Reddick being 30 out. I think is like the only guy I could see in theory you could get one of those 4 guys 30 points on.
Yeah.
You could outgain by 30. But if you're more than that, like Blaney and Chase both, no shot. And to go back to that wreck a little bit, like that's on Tyler Reddick. I get it was a 2-piece pass, like you're gonna get 2 cars. Like I understand that's tempting, but you gotta think big picture. Like even if you don't pass those 2 guys, you
screwed yourself.
And say you don't pass those 2 guys all day and you stay two positions further down than you would have been. You're not 40 or you're not 30 points off the cut right now.
No. Nope.
You'd probably still be
with
darn near
with
in
him,
it.
he might not even be in the red with how his regular season
Right.
went and the wins and stuff. I don't know what the where he would have finished or anything like that, but he might have been the last car in at the moment. He might have taken Byron's spot or
Yep.
been 5 points in the red to Byron.
Yeah.
Like it's a bad move. And I love Tyler Reddick so much, but it's like, what are you doing?
Exactly. And it is, and Tyler probably knows it. Like we're not the experts that need to tell him that, but we get reminded time and time again that these playoffs in this format is you're trying to hit home runs, you're trying to get the wow factor moments, and it is almost like some of the drivers treat it like that, but it's almost more you can ruin your whole year in one race way more than you can save it or improve it. Like you're really just playing a game of survivor, it feels like.
Yeah.
And if you wreck yourself out like this and making moves that just that can't happen. Like it really does take a mediocre situation and make it terrible. Like you're behind the 8 ball now.
Yeah, no, it's just frustrating because exactly to what you were saying, it's like, I get it, you're trying to get the points, but the problem is now you've ultimately screwed yourself even more than those 2 spots would have given you. It's just
Yeah.
and I hate being so critical of it because with this playoff format, you do have to go out and finish well in the stages, and you do have to go out and try and get the win. But it's like, man, at what cost? You know what I mean? Are you burning your nose to spite your face type thing? Like it's just the risk and reward ratio on that is just not
Exactly.
there.
That's the way to put it right there. Is that there's so much more risk in racing in general, really, to making moves like that than there is reward a lot of times. Like the slim chance that works and that you get your two positions there and probably puts you in a good spot for stage points or whatever. Like that's all fine and dandy, but in reality, like it was only 2 or 3 points we're talking about here. Now you lost yourself. I don't even know. I wouldn't even want to do the math right now. 30, 35 probably.
Yeah.
Like it kills your season.
Absolutely. It's, and it makes it tough now on Chase, who got wrecked, and even Blaney
Right.
got caught up a little bit in the end of that too. So now you're affecting 2 other guys. And I know obviously Tyler's, that's not, that wasn't the goal. He's not trying to go out there and lose the or wreck out these other guys. But it's just, I don't know. The move was just, it was tough. And again, yes, there should be blame put on Reddick. But again, a lot of people I feel like aren't talking as much about Truex too. I feel like Truex was coming way too far up the track. That kind of pinned that situation. Again, if Reddick's not there, then it's not a problem. But I don't know. I'm more or less just a mad Chase Elliott fan, I think.
I think it's one of those things where it's easy to point to Truex because he literally was the car that was probably out of place in that whole scenario. But from his angle coming off the corner, and I've never driven one, but I can only imagine trying to see that in the rear view mirror, the camera that they have now, and the spotter probably can't technically see that other than tell them that the 45 is coming, and the timing of that, who knows? Like that's impossible. Like that's a really tough read for him, and you're really changing your whole trajectory from the center off of that corner. Like that's tough, and I hate that it's Truex because now we sit here and talk about him again and being in the middle of something or in some sort of commotion. But I don't know. I don't blame him. I think it's Tyler. Just you're forcing the issue too hard, too early in the race. Like he just didn't need it.
Yeah, and something I didn't even put in the rundown here, but I wanted to bring it up while we're talking about it. I totally forgot about this. But the wreck eventually turned over Tyler Reddick. He flips. We have a car come off the ground again, which is the big thing NASCAR is trying to force the issue on. And again, I'm all for it. Like driver safety, that's great. That's what we need. But the debate, I think, started immediately of taking grass out of the infield.
No.
What's your thoughts on that? I just feel like it would look so weird.
That wasn't a grab. I mean, yeah, if you're gonna tar the whole thing, I mean that's gonna look odd, and you're gonna have to paint that, and that's expensive.
It's just gonna look
you're
weird.
talking a lot of money, and then the other thing is too that's gonna get hot. Like I think that's gonna cook. Like you're basically building a frying pan at that point. But anyway, I don't know. I think that was such a weird, like, that's not the first time we've seen the next gen do that. And I'm not sitting here trying to bash the next gen because, like, a guy I was reading social media, obviously, kind of as the race is going on, the guy said, look, Tyler drove away from that, got out of the car, like nothing happened, like, was going to try and keep racing. Like, at some point, some of these flips, like that one was pretty tame. I know we don't want them going upside down all the time, but that one was pretty mild. And I mean, granted, we can't expect them all to be, but got lucky there, I guess. And I really don't think there's much fixing that. Like Chris Buescher did that at Charlotte, and I think 22 first year of the next gen. So it's just gonna be kind of something you work with these tracks that have the, what do you call that? Those legend car ovals, the really, really short track they can build on the front
Bandoleros
stretch
all
there,
run around that.
Bandoleros. Yeah. So until if they'd take that out and make it all grass, he wouldn't flip either. But you don't hear anybody talking about that. So
something that was brought up though. Oh, good. Sorry, buddy.
No, I was good.
Sorry, we're working out how to talk.
So excited.
We're just so excited. It's a lot. But something that I heard. Now I don't know if this is true. This is just what I heard on social media. So you know how much we can trust the internet. But apparently at Vegas Motor Speedway, that inner track there for the Legends and Bandoleros hasn't been run on in 10 years.
Yeah, just take it out.
That's
put grass
like,
there.
Yeah, like, you know, like it's just, I don't know. But when we look at the flip, the big thing that NASCAR is really trying to solve and trying to stop the issue of is the opposite of what that flip was. The car, the way that it's designed, I have right here, you can see the bottom of it is flat. Well, when the car is scooting along here, it's like an airplane wing, so it lifts and goes, right? This car, it bit and rolled over. So it's not like people were talking about, oh, like NASCAR's got to keep these cars on the ground, you know, oh, this is something we've been talking about a bunch, but like this was a separate issue. That this was not a airplane wing lift off the ground and like a Ryan Preece type situation where when he was going across the asphalt, hit the grass, air gets under and the car lifts, where the car was rolling, it bit and rolled over.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Like my hand motions there directing the car. Pretty
like
good.
A physicist. Yeah, I think you got it. But
Justin's an engineer. I can be one too.
We get him back on here. He'd probably give us an answer. Probably tell me how I missed it on the internet too, which would be good. But just kidding.
I love he called you out. That's so funny.
And I do follow all the social medias already too, but I'll share. But
I know you do. I know you do. That's
anyway, I would like to go back and look. I guess engineer, somebody tell me why that car dug in and flipped the way it did, because obviously after that you have all the keyboard warriors coming out and showing all the examples from the early 2000s and truck races of cars coming off the corner like that the same way through the grass and even bouncing and hitting kind of the same exact bumps in the road, for lack of a better term, that Tyler did, and they didn't flip. So I'd be interested why the next gen is the one that's digging in versus if there's even a difference, or maybe it's just bad bounces literally.
Do you think it has something to do with the car? Because in the next gen heavier?
It could be. Maybe. Yeah. I guess technically a little bit. Yeah.
Push down more. I don't know. I'm just a race fan throwing out crazy ideas here. You know.
I mean, it's happened before. Like I guess the digging in and flipping part would be new, but it's, again, pretty mild. He drove away. Like, he wanted to keep going. These next gen cars, I will say one negative thing about them: when they do land or have hard impacts, they just snap in half. So you can't actually, make them durable in any way. So, Dale Earnhardt did it once, but Tyler Reddick couldn't. So that's too bad. We almost had another flipping drive away scenario, but
it was close. The car, honestly, like for a flip, it didn't have that much damage. It was just that front, was it left wheel or was it back left wheel, back right?
I think it was back. I think it was the rear that was destroyed. But
it's like sideways, seeing the tires be this way. It's like this. Again, with my hand motions.
Good visuals. Good visuals.
You like how I brought out the car? We were talking about the great presentation from NBC where they show you the car with the air going through it. And I'm like, here, look at my toy car. This is how the wreck happened.
This is the
sorry guys.
That's the exact kind of visual that they use. I'm pretty sure
that's the Fox Sports visual. What?
Yeah, there you go.
Anyways, Okay, so here we go. We're getting to the interesting, the boom pow of the show here. This is what I had to bring up. We've talked about this all weekend. I see you already huffing because you're preparing for this.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people very upset about this playoff format and everything gone with it. Klon, you are one of those people. Should the playoff format be changed? And if so, why?
I think so. And now this, I might go on a little bit of a soapbox here and have something to say, but I
Go
think it
for it.
should
We
be
want to hear it.
changed, but I'm not blaming, like, this isn't against, I want to be very clear. This is not against Joey Logano. I think he's one of the greatest drivers of this era of the sport. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer someday. He's a 2-time champion. He's done just about everything you can do in NASCAR. Like, phenomenal driver, phenomenal team, Penske, the
Best thing
22
since
car,
sliced
everything.
bread.
Right, literally. That was his nickname, or I guess the call to for him growing up. So I just don't like the idea that, now Joey's got his wins on the year. He's doing what he can to advance in the playoffs, but and this isn't a perfect example, but if you go and use the old Winston Cup standings, for those that are new to NASCAR or new to the show, the Winston Cup is what NASCAR was in the early 2000s up until 2003, and they didn't have the playoffs. Like, your season was what decided the championship. It was 36 races. Whoever scores the most points, there's bonus points for leading laps and wins and things like that. That was just how it was compiled. Whoever's at the end of the year on top, you're the champion, kind of thing. If you use that same points format today, after Las Vegas, Joey Logano with that win is 15th in points. And again, Joe, it's not Joey's fault. He's playing the game. It's the system laid out in front of him. It's the format. He's doing it right. He's in the championship 4. There's no taking that away. If he wins the championship and say he does okay the next couple weeks, but he gets to like 13th, 14th in points, I have a really tough time. Excuse me. I have a really tough time saying that the champion of our sport was the 14th best car in points. And I know the argument against that is they changed the Winston Cup standings for that exact reason, because it was sometimes uncompetitive, or drivers were kind of gaming that system too. So it happens both ways, but I just have a really tough time with it being a traditional race fan. And I don't know. That's just where I'm stuck. Like, I think you got to take the meaningful wins, or how powerful wins are. You got to take that away. Like the automatic qualifiers, the automatic bids, just add more bonus points in some way to not make it too overpowering, but you got to switch it up a little bit would be my recommendation, just to prevent something like this, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I definitely see both sides of it. I definitely 100% see where you're coming from. I think that the win and in format should be changed in the regular season.
Yes.
I definitely think that's a thing.
Good place to start.
Because having a car like Harrison Burton, again, valiant effort from the 21 car for this season and making the playoffs, that's huge for them. But having a car that's in the 30s in points make it that is definitely I see the problem in that. So I think there needs to be some sort of a change, whether if you get a win, you have to be inside of the top 20 drivers or the top 25 drivers to be able to make the playoffs. Now,
Yeah.
let's say you get a win and you're currently 30th in playoffs, but by the end of the season, you're 24th. Then that's okay. That win can then be
Absolutely.
used to get you in. I'm cool with that. I think the regular season is really where I have the most of a problem with it, because when I look at the playoffs, especially at this point with the round of 8, we mentioned this last week, these are the 8 best drivers in our sport. Yes, Joey Logano's 15th in points. They had a weird beginning of the season into early summer that kind of dictated a lot of that 15th. That's just kind of where I'm at on it. And I think that if you can make the playoffs, I want it. In my opinion, I like keeping the win and in because of things like let's take the NFL playoffs for chance. You've got teams that come in like the Chiefs, who will come in at 14-3. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC. Then you've got a team that comes in and they're the 7th seed and they were 8-9 on the year, barely scratched in. if they win their games, they keep advancing, whether, what their regular season looked like. And I think and again, I totally get it. That's football. This is NASCAR. It's different. I'm totally on board with
Yeah.
all that too. Totally on board with all that too. I just think like at this stage, maybe we keep it where it's win and in the round of 8 and beyond. Maybe take out the win and
Yeah.
in on the round of 12 and the round of 16.
And I think that's a good start. And I think the points thing, like Harrison Burton being outside the top 30 and winning,
It's a
and if
crime.
that
It's a
and
crime.
but even like think about it, like NASCAR, their reasoning for all this is they want to create that storybook feeling of, oh hey, Harrison, Wood Brothers won a race, they're in the playoffs, all that. Like think about that win this year. That was the Wood Brothers 100th win at Daytona. Like that storyline, Harrison Burton's first career win, like young driver looking for a new ride, like that storyline was already written. Him making the playoffs was literally the last point of that story. Like that didn't make it better. It didn't make it worse. Like sure, financially for the Wood Brothers, that's great. Like Denny Hamlin talked about, they made a lot of money because of that. But as a race fan, like that's not what keeps me coming back. Like, oh my God, Harrison Burton made the playoffs. That's awesome.
Right.
Like, don't care. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything. So then what good's the playoffs? And I'm with you, like the football thing, we're both sports fans outside of this, stick and ball sports as the racing world calls it. And I understand what you're saying, like that team that just sneaks in and does enough. And I would say that too, up until recently, I was kind of shown new light. And somebody made a point to me on, I think it was Twitter, we were talking, but he said, you can't compare it to like a football playoffs because in this case, for example, Joey Logano, that's who we're talking about, has had up until the playoffs 26 chances to beat Kyle Larson. He gets to play everybody every week. You don't just play one team every week to see where you match up and how well you play. So to me, it's like you don't need the underdog in the playoffs because that completely forfeits your whole season of racing against each other already. So did that race in May in Kansas or the 600 in Charlotte, like did that not mean as much as Vegas did? Literally not. But
Yeah.
in the racing world, is that what you want? Like, and that's all subjective. Like, I mean, we can all say yes, it does, or no, it isn't, or whatever, but it's new versus old, really. And I mean, what this new age is and what it's going to become is still kind of evolving, but it's a matter of kind of trying to let go of the past in a way too. I know that's really deep and doesn't need to be like that, but and it's kind of where it's at, is like as a race fan, like we've talked about before on the show, like I started watching this stuff in 2001, 2002. Like I remember guys coming into Homestead, like the year Tony Stewart won his first championship, they turned on Homestead, packed house, place is going crazy for a race. And Tony, all he had to do was finish like 18th or better. And he did. He won the championship, and the race was fine, and it was entertaining. Tony carried around the championship afterwards, and it was fun. But like, we didn't have, a guy that was 15th in points make the Final Four or anything like that. And did you need it? I don't know. Maybe they did. And so maybe I'm in the minority too, and that's fine. But yeah, it's really kind of just changed my opinion the last couple of years for sure.
I honestly don't think you're in the minority. I think it's pretty 50-50 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter today where it was pretty half and half. The most of what I saw was people calling this a Mickey Mouse championship for Joey. I
don't think so.
I don't think so.
He's playing if it's a Mickey Mouse championship this year, it's a Mickey Mouse championship every year because it's the same system.
Right. Well, I mean, then Ryan Blaney's was a year ago. If that's the case, then every championship in this format, other than Kyle Larson, where he won like 11 races that year, like
21,
other than that year, every other champion has been Mickey Mouse. It's just that is kind of why I do like this playoff format as well. Is it's like, man, you can, as long as you get in, you've got a shot to where. Like if you go into this race and you strategize very well, like the 22 team did, you save your fuel, do all these things to give yourself that win, you've now given yourself that bid into the playoffs. That is the part that I like as well, is that like it really gives the importance of later in the season, a lot like stick and ball sports where, there's going to be more intensity at an AFC championship or NFC championship than there is week 3
Right.
for the Browns versus the Jets. You know what I mean? Like there's just going to be more intensity with that. So I think that's why I like it as well. But like I said, I see both sides. I really do. I think
Yeah.
there needs to be some tweaks to it. There's got to be some not minor, there could be any kind of changes, but just a couple of things need to be changed to where I think we can iron this out. But you were mentioning the old and the new school fans of NASCAR. That's kind of the whole thing of this is the
Right.
direction that NASCAR is headed now. This is, I think, the best playoff format that we've got, because I feel like if we went to the old Winston Cup standings and we raced this year and there was, let's say we go to Phoenix and first and second are leading by 150 points and only their day matters. You know what I mean? Then I feel like a lot of new school NASCAR fans would not digest the race as much. Not
Right.
not guys like us who have been watching it our entire
Right.
lives and understand that, but this new age that NASCAR is trying to reach, I think that's what NASCAR is realizing is like we've got to go out and have this playoff format that's similar to stick and ball sports, which is working
Yeah.
for them. So maybe it can work for us.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's
No,
my long drawn out way of saying that.
No. I think you're spot on there. I think NASCAR saw, and you're diving deep into NASCAR lore and history here, but I think NASCAR saw the trendward down in ratings, 2010, 2011, 12, and kind of came to this conclusion of there needs to be almost like finite black and white knockout results at races, and meaning like winner take all type events. And that's what this championship is now. And that's, for better or for worse, that's probably the best way to get a new fan to turn on their TV and be glued to it is, hey, that car needs to literally just pass that car in this race and he wins the championship. And
Yeah.
I get that. That makes sense. If that's the reasoning and that's the direction they want to go, by all means, if it's better for the sport, let's do it. But I do miss like even the chase from like 2011. Like they had the playoffs, but it wasn't this automatic win and you advance thing. And Tony Stewart snuck in as like, I think there was 12 guys at the time, snuck in as the 12th
That was
car,
so cool. That was
ripped
so
off
cool.
5 wins in the last 10 races and won the
Dude.
championship. And like that to me, like that was a win and you're the champion situation, but that happened organically. And so it wasn't just this drawn up, like, hey, look at this. Yeah, look at this one race showdown we have. Tony.
So do you think we should go back to like a chase format?
I'm fine with, let's cut it off at 26 races and say, hey, these best 10, 12, 16 guys, you guys can win the championship. But I don't need a guy in 20th driving like an idiot trying to send Hail Marys to win one. Like, that's fine. But I think I just have a hard time being like, oh, the guy in 16th, he pointed his way through one round, made to the round of 12, and then won 2 fluky races and then won Phoenix. So he won 3, but his average finish on the year is 17th. And now he's the champion. Like, I just have a really hard time being like, oh, he fuel mileage his way to a win, which is a win. They give out the trophy just the same. I'm not taking anything away, but it just, I don't know. It's just an adjustment. Maybe I'm still just adjusting to it, but I do have one more stat if we have time for it.
Go for it.
A guy on Reddit came up with this. Credit to Historical Height 9670. I don't know who you are, but shout out you. He created like an algorithm similar to quarterback rating in football, and it basically summarizes your races and your years. And he came up with a stat. This quarterback rating or quality race rating, the champion versus the best driver from the season since they've gone to this one race knockout in 2014. Guess how many times the best driver in terms of this QBR actually won the championship?
That's
That'd
gonna
be
be
2.
interesting. So let's think back to some of our champs here real quick. Just a quick buzz over. I'd imagine Larson probably was that guy in 21.
You got one.
Um,
It happened one other time
one other time.
where the champion was also the highest metric driver.
Was it Truex?
Martin Truex Jr. in 17. Yep. Out of the 10
That
they've
guy,
had,
pal.
those are the two.
I'm that guy, pal.
You are. Yeah, that's actually very impressive. But other than that, the lowest QBR metrics recorded as champions are the very last two guys to win it. Ryan
Really?
Blaney and Joey Logano.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. That is really cool. I feel like we should start looking at that more.
Yeah.
That's
I
a
mean,
cool
I
stat.
think, yeah, it's
Here,
based on QBR and everything. It's pretty sweet. So
yeah,
I thought
that's
that was
awesome.
a good way to just kind of put it in perspective a little bit more.
Here's my solve. You ready? Let's go back to the OG race winnings. Go off of money.
Who won the most money?
That was like the original NASCAR format in
Yeah.
like the whatever, like early 1900s, when they had started the sport. And yeah, it was the champion was decided off of money earned.
You're gonna have
have
guys running part-time schedules again and just go send it at Daytona and Talladega 4 times a year and try to win those 4.
Yeah,
basically.
There was in that format. I watched a YouTube video on this the other night. In that format, there was 2 or 3 champs that won because they had won a certain like 2 or 3 races that were worth more. Meanwhile, there was another driver who had won like 15 races that year, but they were all for low amounts of money. So he didn't win the championship. Yep. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then they went off of, what was it? After that, it was the laps format. Most laps run was the champion. And then it became the Winston Cup, right? After that?
It was. I mean,
I'm
I think,
so lost.
I don't know when the Winston banner was put on it in terms of points format, but I mean, that's how it was for decades. I mean, you're talking 30, 40 years probably. So
yeah,
I don't know. Again, I think that's just part of it's a growing pain and it's an adjustment, but I do still think we need to get it a little bit closer to rewarding the best car. Like I still think like I have a hard time and we'll get into that towards the end of the year if it does happen. Even I'm not trying to be too much of a fortune teller, but I have a tough time not handing this trophy to Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, or Tyler Reddick at this point. But
hey, don't count them out just yet, though. Especially Seabell. Oh my Lord!
Oh, that dude's coming for blood now.
He is.
He's coming for absolute blood.
I saw like a hype video for him, and some reporter asked him. They were like, what do you think about like that people don't really, go crazy about you?
Talk
that
about you.
It's just quiet when it comes to you. And he just like held the mic. He was like, I don't care. And then it like went to him driving and it had hype music underneath it. I was like, yep, Seabell's my guy. Let's go. He is that guy. Well, real quick before we wrap up the show, let's get into Homestead. Who you got winning this weekend?
I have set myself up here. I said Christopher Bell's coming for blood.
I have
a hard time not taking him. I think defending winner of this race, it suits a guy with dirt racing background like Christopher. Well, being a track like Justin kind of talked about, you can run it in a few different places, but eventually you're all going to be running the fence, and that sets up well for a guy like him. And obviously won the race here last year, so I'll go with Christopher. I think that team is just finding the right stuff, and nobody's just talked about them all year, including us. They got to point the finger sometimes, but yeah, I think he's ready to take it to him. That's right. Yeah, right through the screen kind of thing. Yep. But yeah, 20 car again.
Yeah, I love the pick, and I want to pick him as well. But out of not having the exact same pick for having a different pick here, I guess. You know what?
I mean, he's staring you right in the face.
He is. But I just don't want. I hate picking the same guy because it's like,
know.
Oh, they're just picking the same guy. It's like, I don't know. I got it though. It's another Joe Gibbs driver. Denny Hamlin wins this weekend.
That'd be unbelievable.
Gets his way into the round of 4. I'm calling it now.
That would probably be one of the bigger upset wins of the year at this point. It feels like the way they've been going. Geez, can't get one thing to go right for the 11.
Dude. Yeah, this weekend for them was weird too. Like the whole pit strategy thing they had going that just didn't work. And yeah, it's just been a bad end of the year for
They need to
them.
quit thinking so hard. It
They
started in
do.
Atlanta.
They
They need
do.
to, between his pit crew not knowing what they're doing and the crew chief making some calls, they need to just go out and race, man. I mean, they're one of the best cars, best driver, one of the better drivers out there. Like,
Absolutely.
you just got to go do it.
Just got to go out there and throw on the helmet, drive the car to victory lane.
That's right. Yeah, it's that simple. Just go
Yeah,
do that.
exactly. It is that simple. No, yeah. I mean, I'm pumped for this weekend. It's gonna be awesome. We get to watch Justin on Saturday. We will possibly find out another Final Four driver. And how crazy is it though that in a span of a week, Joey Logano went from eliminated in the playoffs to in the round of 4. What is more? That's my question for you. What is more Joey Logano than this situation? Like,
Nothing. This is it.
it's the most Joey Logano thing that I've ever seen. We're in an even year, number 1. Number 2, he was eliminated and gets thrown back in because another car was disqualified. And then in the first race where nobody's expecting it to be him, we're all saying, oh, Larson, Hamlin, Reddick, throwing all these names out here, Seabell. The guy in dead last in the points sneaks up and steals the win and guarantees himself into the round of 4. Like what is more Joey Logano than that? There's nothing.
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 No, not
Crazy.
at all. I mean, and I will say one thing about that: the whole getting in with Alex Bowman, getting DQ'd. Like, yeah, you want to earn on the track, and I'm sure Joey would even tell you that. But the fans saying that it's even more of a joke. Like, credit to Joey for putting himself 9th in points. Like, you got to give him that. They were in the right spot for the 48 to get DQ'd. You know, like,
yep, you got to be there.
Them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I hate this whole Mickey Mouse thing everybody's got going on right now, because it's like they put themselves in the spot to where if that were to happen, which is always a possibility, clearly it just happened. They were in the spot to do it. So honestly, if anything, it's hats off to Paul Wolf and that whole team for putting that 22 car right where it needed to be. I mean, they're dancing now. They're in the round of 4. But
that's right.
Great episode, man. Holy cow. That was a banger. Justin was awesome. He called you out. That was hilarious. He's getting us bottles of tequila. Like, this is great.
I did find to kind of piggyback off what Justin said and kind of publicize a little bit more. The truck race is 11 a.m. our time, Central Time here in the Midwest, noon Eastern on FS1 on Saturday. So
it's on FS1?
Yeah. According to the website, which I mean we talked about earlier, who knows?
That's wild.
At least I get to watch one race on Saturday since the CW. I don't think that channel even actually exists. So
it doesn't. You have to go outside with 2 metal wires and strap them to your roof during a lightning storm to get it. That's the only way.
Sounds about right. But yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, what is this, episode 6 now? Great episode 6. Thank you guys for tuning in and hearing us talk about left turns. We appreciate it as always. Be sure to like, subscribe, and our DMs are always open too. This is something. You have to tell Graham. You gotta. This is what I was going to say. Our DMs are they're open. So if there's anything that's about the show you like, if there's anything about the show you want to see, if there's anything you want to, any segments, anything you want to hear us talk about involving NASCAR, shoot it our way. Like we're always open to that.
Need to DM me a reminder when this race is again by Saturday. I'm gonna forget, but you have to let me know.
That's great. I love it, dude. All right,
gets me a bottle of tequila before this weekend. We're gonna be in big trouble by Saturday.
Yeah, there we go. I love it, dude. He's like, oh, I'm gonna have to get you guys some bottles. Yes, one of the boys. All right,
he's a founding father.
He is the founding father of the show. He is. So
that's right.
All right, perfect. Perfect episode. Shout out Justin. Shout out you guys for watching and listening. We've been getting great numbers and everything like that. So appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in as always. And we will see you next time for the final race of the round of 8. So we'll see you then.